self-healing and psychic healing, we could say, or self-healing to create the life that you want. What actually does that mean? The power of the mind, we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to touch a little bit on mindfulness meditation and the reflective state of mind. Hey everyone, James Nussbaumer, and thanks for joining another For a Better Life podcast. Today is a Sunday. It's actually Mother's Day, and it is May 13th, 2018. And speaking of today, I had someone who had written in to me, actually via email, from Westport, Ireland, Jennifer Olson. And she has wanted me to discuss something today about psychic powers and psychic healing and, self-healing and psychic healing. How does that relate? And how is psychic power equal to the divine, or is the divine? And I'm going to touch on that because remember now, the word psychic is just letters in the alphabet. It's just a word, and it's a word that's been abused over time. But think about psychic, psychological, psychic of the mind, not the brain, of the mind. The true essence of who we are is the mind I'm speaking with. So let's move on. And Jennifer, thanks for writing in, because I hope that Jennifer's of my mastermind group, and she is going to get a fill today on an answer to her question. By the way, if you hear some background noise going on, you might hear a little traffic going by. You might maybe hear a church bell ringing in the background. Well, I'm podcasting today from outdoors in a veterans park in downtown Massillon, Ohio, my hometown. And it's kind of a balmy, dampish kind of day for spring in Ohio. But actually, it's gorgeous. The dogwoods are just coming out of bloom and the leaves are coming on the trees. And I'm in a little park and a picnic table here, and with my laptop, and it's just wonderful. It's just, I've got a cup of coffee here, and it's just wonderful. So I chose to do this today. And so if you hear some noise in the background, just kind of envision me sitting at a picnic table in a park that's called Veterans Park. But why don't many people understand and realize that the only way to create the life you want is through self-healing, and self-healing through the power of the mind? And by the way, for you people that are listening to this at YouTube, in the description area down below are a couple of links. First of all, I'm giving you access to a free ebook on the power of manifestation that I urge that you get. So you'll see it plainly there in the description area, free ebook. Then I'm giving you access to a free manifestation breakthrough kit. And that link is called Manifest Greatness. Both links are safe links through my website, and both links give you a video to explain the whole thing, and it will download the information directly to your inbox. So I hope that you'll take advantage of that. Also in the description area down below of this YouTube video is a link to a blog article, a detailed blog article I'd written about true success in life is possible for you right now in this instant, and how to make your dreams a reality through understanding your own psychic powers, and which means your divine power to live the life that you want. So I hope that you'll check out that blog article as well. Now, if you're at my website and you're listening to this podcast, those links are all over this page that you're reading on right now, that the audio of this podcast, so to speak, is embedded in there, right in the article. So we get a little bit of that housekeeping out of the way. And as I sip on my coffee, please bear with me. So again, why don't many people understand and realize the only way to create the life you want is self-healing through the power of the mind? Well, Jennifer from Westport, Ireland, she says it's a little Atlantic inlet town on the west coast of Ireland, right on the Atlantic, a little inlet that comes off of the Atlantic. I can kind of envision it. I'd see probably the weather there is kind of like we're having here today in Ohio. But let's talk about self-healing now. is a natural aspect within yourself. We can say a reflective state of mind that you can learn to create the life you want because you are whole, WHOLE. You are whole and one, at one with your source and not separate. Your source, many of us call God. I do. It's easy, and that's what we're used to. But no matter what word you use for your source, it doesn't matter. Like I always say, the word God, G-O-D, is just letters in the alphabet. You could, whatever name you use is fine, but your source. So when you are, because you are whole and one with your source, not separate, your source is not somewhere way out there looking down on you, so to speak. No, you are of your source. Your source is within you. And keep in mind, like I said, as you read on, to go ahead and get that free ebook and the Power of Manifestation free ebook and the Manifestation Breakthrough Kit. By the way, if you're at my blog listening to this, at the article, it point blank right there tells you the ebook accessible here, Breakthrough Kit here. Anyways, the body is instructed as a reflection of the whole, the oneness, so to speak, of the whole, a non-separated self, yourself, self with a capital S, meaning divine, your whole and non-separated self, naturally to always be self-healing. Because while in this world, there's something we're always healing over. And basically, if you do prefer, just call it psychic healing. And really what self-healing is healing of the mind, healing because when we're healing, we're allowing the darkness, the cloud cover that's blocking out the light from our source, and we're allowing the cloud cover to fade away. And the more we let the cloud cover, which I call the ego-based mind, to fade away, we are allowing light to come through the wholeness that we are. And the wholeness that we are is full of abundance and prosperity. So, if you are aware of the wholeness that you are because, your body has been practicing the miracle of self-healing the entire time you've been in this world, really it has, because since birth we're constantly healing from something. A lot of times we want to look at it as in physical form, we're healing of something, but actually it's when we heal over anything, we're allowing the cloud cover of separation to fade away and let the light of wholeness, and to heal means to make whole, doesn't it? Sure it does. Yes, your inner self with a capital S, your inner self is involved in psychic healing all of the time unless you are blocking it out, like clouds covering the sun. Does that make sense? Jennifer Olson, I hope you're listening to me and smiling, maybe chuckle. Let me give you a principle, spiritual metaphysical principle from the Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles states, a broken body shows the mind has not been healed. A miracle of healing proves that separation is without effect. Well, let's look at that. The peaceful, free, fulfilled, and the more peaceful, free, and fulfilled, and the more relaxed way you see the world, isn't that a sign that you are getting to know the real world through yourself and through self-healing? I liken this process to how I would feel whenever I left my home in Ohio and got on the highway to drive to sunny Florida. Well, in this instance today, it was the opposite, driving from Florida back to Ohio, okay? Say it doesn't matter, it's about 1,000 miles. But let's just say, when in the late fall, autumn, when I would drive to Florida and leaving Ohio behind, the colder weather coming in. Okay, let's use that as an example. In how we perceive things is relate this example I'm giving you to how we perceive things. Well, my perception of the trip would change little by little tiny segment by little tiny segment, the closer I would get to the sunshine-filled Florida border. And this, of course, was particularly evident, like I mentioned just a moment ago, in the wintertime or late autumn in Ohio, when I want to get out of here and get to Florida so I can, maybe play golf and, all those things we like to do in the warm sunshine. So this was particularly, evident in the wintertime when I would leave the snow and gray skies that were gradually arriving, and then I would gradually be arriving little by little to the abundant sunshine of Florida as I would drive south 1,000 miles, 1 mile at a time. Well, similarly, by now, you should be noticing the self-healing process within yourself. If you can use this as an example of anything you're trying to get through or get over, or some adversity you're trying to climb over. Let me throw another Course in Miracles principle at you. The Course in Miracles helps us to realize that in wholeness is when you have that feeling of never being alone, because you're whole and you're at one with your source. You're not separated. Loneliness comes in when there's a lot of separation going on. So the laws of self-healing, if you want to call it psychic healing, more power to you. But the laws of self-healing must be understood so this feeling can gradually strengthen as you continue to spend time in the concept of being whole and at one with your source. So as you transition more toward wholeness, more toward the light, as you transition more toward the sunshine, so to speak, as my example of me leaving cold weather in Ohio to head to Florida, as your transition becomes more securely set in the real world. The real world is all wholeness. There's no separation in the real world. As your transition becomes more securely set into wholeness, the wholeness of the real world, you will experience self-healing continuously, rather than those wrong-minded, separated, ego-based thoughts that are hanging in the clouds, blocking the light. And the perceptions and thoughts that you get when you're in that mode is always something of doom and gloom of the sort that only keeps you from self-healing and keeps you from the spiritual path. Does that clear some things up, Jennifer Olson in Westport, Ireland? I'm so glad you wrote in, Jennifer, and I encourage others to too. You can do so by the contact page at my website, leave a message, or at YouTube, you can leave a message. There's a related article that may help that's at my blog, and by the way, I've got hundreds of articles because I write every day. A related article goes deep into internal strength that I would like you to take a look at. And it's jamesnussbaumer.com/internal strength you can put in, and that will lead you right to that blog article. Let's go over a few necessary principles that I've learned, arranged in a way that summarizes for you to experience true and real healing. Like I said, if you want to call it psychic healing, and those words feel more at home to you, then so be it. What is inner awareness? Well, a key self-healing principle is to be aware that all sickness stems from your wrong-minded, ego-based, cloud-covered belief in separation. And when I say belief in separation, what I mean, it's a belief in separation means it's a belief that we were taught over centuries that we are separate from our source. And that's so far from the truth, it's ridiculous. We are at one with our source. So the ego-based mind, which is based on and founded a foundation on fear and self-doubt and judgment, wants to believe in separation. And again, it's why I recommend that you learn to do mindfulness meditation exercises, because in meditation, for those of you that don't know about meditation or maybe are afraid to go there because your upbringing said prayer is the only way, there's nothing to be fearful about in meditation or confused about. And really, I like to look at the difference between prayer and meditation because I like them both. And believe me, brought up as a Catholic all my life, prayer was everything, and prayer still is everything for me today, but also along with meditation. I like to see prayer as the asking for things, like to open your mind to see what you need to do next, asking, what can I do next? And then I like to see mindfulness meditation as the listening for the answers. Mindfulness meditation gets you to that alpha state. It's the beginning state of mind where you start creating. It's the creativity area in you. And when you listen for the answers, your creations start to become real and they start manifesting into the material world. You know, only you are able to deny separation, the idea of separation from the one thought of God. The one thought. God only has one thought, and that is his creation, which is all one and whole. So, in the one thought of God, which is the creation, meaning you and I, whole and at one with our Creator, in that aspect, can sickness really be real? And when we want to look at ourselves as whole, can't that help us heal and have sickness or whatever we're facing, panic, stress, anxiety, fade away? Well, sure it can, and it kind of goes away because the idea that brought it, that brought in the light to fade away the cloud cover of stress and anxiety and whatever it is you're going through, was brought in by self-healing and replaced. And self-healing is sanity. So what really is sanity again? It's all that is true and whole. Separation is illusion or insanity. You know, sickness and sin are seen as consequence and cause in a seemingly separated relationship with wholeness. And what I mean is your ego-based mind thinking keeps hiding and uses separation and sin for illusory reasonings. Sin is about conflict, and conflict cannot be whole because what conflicts means it's filled with separation. So how can what is whole and at one have any conflict at all whatsoever involved in what is whole? It can't. Take, for example, excuse me, it's funny as I clear my throat as I get ready to tell you this one. Let me sip on some coffee. But take, for example, a fever and the sniffles. Okay, for example, seen as a consequence, caught by maybe babysitting the neighbor's children, or seen as cause and preventing psychic healing to naturally occur. Whatever reason gave you the fever and the sniffles, you feel you caught it from somebody, right? Well, when I was in prison for 8 long years, and for those of you that don't know me, yes, I was in prison for 8 long years over a foolish securities violation, and the prison sentence was overtly political. I don't blame anyone other than myself for getting into that jam that I got myself into, but an example setter judge threw the book at me when I lost my case in court. But I'm not going to dwell on that because that's indicated in all of my books. So when I was in prison, very tightly crammed in, with each other, just terrible, just, like sardines packed into a can, and double bunked on top of each other, and just, inches away from each other. But the prison system does a grand job of giving us these cold, hard facts to process in our belief system. And we were expected, when I was in prison, to get colds and flu-like symptoms all the time on a regular basis because we were so close to one another, actually living in each other's breath, breathing on each other all the time. And it really was that bad. I'm not exaggerating. But this is due to the fact that we literally were living within 30 inches of one another, double bunked. 30 inches away would be another double bunk, on and on and on, and just the bacteria and germs in the air were just a prime breeding ground for sickness. Of course, regular hand washing and personal hygiene were measures, of course. We simply, would wash your hands as many times as you could. But there's still no stopping the spread of such infections when they are spreading. And there are always certain inmates that gave no regard whatsoever to their own personal hygiene. And I'm sure you can relate to that. Some people just don't want to clean themselves. And especially in prison, you got a lot of people that way. But some men never, literally never, would take a shower. And they were often forced into segregation known as the hole, where an institutional cleansing can be conducted in the hole. Mainly, you could say a fire hose just turned on you, if that's the last resort to get you to take a shower. So, and that's no joke. It really was that bad. But no individual, regardless of educational background or, their social status, wants to have others living in their face in the first place. So that's a psychic letdown right there. And what I mean by a psychic letdown, when you're living in someone's face all the time, crammed up against each other, like I had described, that brings cloud cover of the ego-based mind in, and it certainly is a huge lack of wholeness in that respect. Exposed to all the coughing and the sneezing and the belching and the farting and on and on and on. And just all the bodily functions taking place. And, once there was one time, what I'm getting to, when I came down with a bronchial infection. It was terrible. I just thought I was getting pneumonia, but I went to the sick call place at the infirmary, and they found it was a bronchial infection. And I immediately started scolding myself for not taking better care. And I started blaming other inmates, as well as the living conditions, for why I was sick. Well, this caused me to be quite upset and anxious and stressed out. And so I went to sick call again, and I got the proper antibiotics were prescribed. And so my body was suffering from this condition, it was also consuming my real self, because I was thinking more in a mode of separation rather than focusing on the wholeness and the oneness I am with my source. I was focusing on the illness, the bronchial infection, as who I was. And by doing that, it left the cloud cover of the ego separating thought and perceptions hang over me. And it was in the form of a bronchial infection. And self-healing, or psychic healing, we can say, was difficult due to my separated, wrong-minded, ego-based thought system. So I was allowing my mind to see myself as ruled by this bronchial infection, as if the virus had power over me. Well, this is what is going on when we feel frustrated, stuck, or unfulfilled. We are letting the cloud cover of the ego-based separation, thoughts of separation, hang over us and rule who we are. So in the real world, which is non-separation, nothing can have power over wholeness. There can be no conflict. Does that make sense, Jennifer Olson of Westport, Ireland today? I hope so. As I get ready to close as well, I want to suggest another article closely related to what I had just spoken about in today's For a Better Life podcast on proof that healing power of the mind and miracles is for optimum health. Now, you can access that article at my blog, jamesnussbaumer.com/healing power of the mind. We'll get you there. I invite you all to sign up for my Everyday Miracles newsletter. It's the free version of my newsletter, and it's a good place to start out. And many people just hang out there forever, and they never graduate up to my mastermind group. But the Everyday Miracles newsletter is free, and you'll find that at my website, all over my blog. There's plenty of opportunity. You'll see newsletter posted everywhere. And if you're interested in joining my mastermind group, at my website, jamesnussbaumer.com, that is at the subscriptions page. Very easy on the menu to find. And I hope you'll support my work. My third book was just released and it's called And Then I Knew My Abundance. It's Lessons from A Course in Miracles, and there's a wonderful, twisting story in that. It was written while I was in prison, as were books 2 and book 1. Book 1, I'll recap that real quick, is the pilot of the series. I have an ever-developing series going on. Book 1 is called Book 1 is titled The Master of Everything. It's a story of mankind in the world of illusion we call life. That brings you up front to what happened and why I went to prison, and I share lots of gory experiences of prison, and I also write as reflections of A Course in Miracles, and I have been getting great reviews on that, and its sequel is called Mastering Your Own Spiritual Freedom, Lessons from A Course in Miracles, another book very well received, and my third one, also written from prison by hand because there is no computer in prison. And that's a long story. If you read my first book, you'll find out how I was able to get my material out to a publisher who decided it was their mission to get involved in my purpose, a mainstream publisher, Ozark Mountain Publishing Company. And this has all been a miracle for me. All been really and truly a miracle. Ozark Mountain Publishing Company, I'm so happy to be with that family, that publishing family, and they are the publisher of my first 3 books of the ever-developing series. And I've written up to 16 books. We're doing the editing on book 4 now, and book 5 and 6 will soon be going on their way. So I hope that you will support my work, because I'm here for the long haul, and I'm not going anywhere. Also follow me on Twitter. For some reason, I engage well on Twitter, Facebook as well. Please join me there. Google+, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would love to have you as a subscriber to my YouTube channel. You also notice at my blog I have a GoFundMe page, and if you'll take a look at that, it's in the right-hand sidebar, side column on the right hand. You scroll down a little bit next to my blog articles. If you click on it, it will show there's a long, lengthy article I'd written as to why I ask for support at GoFundMe. And that explains everything about my situation and where I'm going and my journey to help heal the world in however form you want to look at it. Like I said, I'm not going away, but my expenses are, quite high, and I'm working very, very hard on what I'm doing. So I also endorse other people's products as well that help for a better life. Sure, of course, I want you to buy my books and have them in your home and feel that they've helped you turn things around. But I'm not the only answer for you with maybe what you're up against. And so that's why I endorse other people's products that I believe in, just as they endorse mine. And that's what the world is all about. Well, I hope this makes sense for today. I've got to go. I'm running out of time. I went a little bit overboard. But, like I always like to say, I hope you're thinking a lot about your own life and all the natural beauty, the natural gifts that you possess inside, and that you learn to reflect that awesomeness within you to your material world, giving you a life situation that is wonderful. And that makes a better world for you. And when the world is a better place for you, it's better for every one of us too. Hey, I've got to run. I hope this made sense. James Nussbaumer, signing off.